This is People I Know Show, a podcast about interesting people, personal growth, and being wrong. I'm your host, Curt Carstensen. On this episode, I'll be speaking with my 15-year-old nephew, AJ Torfin. AJ offers a relevant perspective from someone that's lived his entire life in the 21st century. Learn about him, some of the personal growth challenges he is taking on at a young age, as well as some aspects of the role that I have played in his life. What's it like being a 15-year-old boy in 2018? What's the biggest challenge facing someone at that age? A reminder, you can search People I Know Show on Facebook and Instagram to follow the show page and for more content relating to this and all episodes. Now, on to today's conversation with AJ Torfin. My 15-year-old nephew, AJ Torfin, joins me today on People I Know Show. Hello, AJ.
Hi, my name's AJ.
You, I think, were the first person to actually, I don't know if you requested, but you volunteered, you raised your hand that you would be on the podcast. Well, why did you want to be on the podcast?
Oh, yeah, I love your podcast. I feel like it's very entertaining, and I support you in it. I feel like you're doing a very good job at it.
So as I was thinking about it, after you said you wanted to be on, I thought, well, do I have him on? Do I have just anybody on? Anybody that wants to be on, they come to me and say they want to be on, I put them on. And I don't know, I haven't quite decided how I'll handle that in the future, because I do intend on doing at least a year's worth of episodes, hopefully many, many more, but I've set a minimum goal of one episode a week for a year. So that's a lot of people that I have to know and have to talk to. But then as I thought more about you and the dynamic of me being your uncle and some of the situations we've had over the years, I thought, okay, we can do this. But what is it that you thought you could add by being on a podcast like this? Had you thought about that very much?
Well, yeah. That's a good question. Well, I thought about most of the people that you probably have on would not be as young and have a different point of view from a young person's perspective on how society is and the perspectives and and I thought maybe I could add something to that and to the conversation and all the other podcasts that would be different than that. I would be different than your other ones. Sorry. And
I think you can. And I used to live with you and your mom and your sister. So to explain how that developed a little bit, I was living in Rochester, and I had a job in this direction here in the suburban Twin Cities. So I no longer had my job that I had in Rochester, and I had a house that I owned that was for sale and in the process of selling that was sitting empty. So in that meantime, I moved in with you and your mom and your sister. And at that time, it worked out well because she could use my help, and I was able to help get you and your sister to school or activities. And we did that for a few years. So I think we lived in the one apartment for like a year and a half. And then I lived in this house that we're sitting in now for maybe another year and a half or more. It might have been more than that. But do you recall, and this is something from my life that I don't think I'd really told that many people about because I was maybe kind of embarrassed or something. You were maybe 9 years old at the time, and I would have been, let's say 6 years ago. So I'd been like, definitely when I turned 30, this was the case. So when I was 29, you and I was 29, you were 9, we were sharing a bedroom, which as my life transpired, that was kind of crazy how that worked out. But I think for about a year and a half, we shared a bedroom in this 3-bedroom apartment. There's 4 of us living there. I guess I hadn't really thought about that for a while until knowing that I was going to be talking to you today. What do you remember from the days of sharing a bedroom with Uncle Curt?
It was fun times. If I recall, you slept on a futon, and I slept on a mattress on the ground.
Yeah, it was a single, like a twin bed mattress that was on the ground, and my futon. Yeah, go on.
I feel like it definitely built our relationship up better, that we shared sleeping space as well as just our little place that we just hung out. And it was definitely a different experience. I don't think many other people that or any age would say that they lived in the same bedroom as their uncle. And I feel like it was really cool at the time to have a male figure more in my life, because my dad wasn't always around as much as a day-to-day basis, but I would see him a lot. But just a day-to-day basis to have that older male figure around was really cool. Yeah, it was a really good time.
Your parents are divorced and your dad lives maybe a couple hours away, so you see him, but not day to day, of course. But you see your mom all the days that you're here in the suburban Twin Cities area. So yeah, we shared the bedroom, and without really, I didn't have my own kids. I still don't. But I realized at that time that was the closest it's ever been for me to be a parent. For your sister's 2 years older than you, and so between you and her and me helping you guys out do things, but also like attempting to discipline you. I don't know that I was that great at it. I don't know. Do you remember? So you grew up. It was at least 3 years of having me live in the same for a year and a half in the apartment. Then we had our own bedrooms when we moved into this house, so that was good. But you had me attempting to like discipline you or tell you what to do sometimes. I don't think you always listened, or when you did, you weren't very happy with me.
Yeah, I definitely could probably tell at the time that you did not have that much experience with children. Definitely children that you knew very well, and that you were definitely easier to get away with things, I felt like. And
I still would be, I think.
Yeah. And I was probably a little too much of a rascal around you, and you probably had the right to get annoyed and have the discipline there, but it never really worked, I don't think.
You just, and maybe not anymore. I think you're kind of growing out of how I envisioned me as a kid, but for those years, I just thought you're just me 20 years later, and everything that you do that I wished I hadn't done just pissed me off. So I would get annoyed when you weren't being better than you could be, because I know you could be better. We all can be better. And occasionally I'd probably have a short temper with some of those things. But hopefully I was also a positive influence too. Do you remember anything that I did positively to help?
Oh, yeah. You definitely did positive things. You would obviously transport us, which was very helpful. And I don't think I could be on as many activities as I was back then. But like more emotionally, you were somebody else to talk to than just my mom. And that was pretty good. And I very much appreciate that. And you definitely were a positive influence on that.
And we'd hang out sometimes. I remember twice even. So here's one thing that I think I can say. Well, I don't know. You have to tell me exactly. Are you out of or in of your WWE phase?
I'm very far out of it.
Okay. So, and I think anyone can have that. I've had 2 WWE professional wrestling phases in my life. And if there's anyone listening that's a big pro wrestling fan, I get it. I can see why you do it. I'm not knocking it. But also, it's something that I'm happy that I experienced, but also happy that I don't continue to experience. So when I was about 17, 18, 19, I really got into pro wrestling for a couple of years because of a video game I played with my friends that was a pro wrestling game. So then I started to realize these were like real people, and I watched it, and it was kind of cool. But then, fortunately, I moved on to do other things. But then you, as a 8 or 9-year-old, began to develop a fandom for pro wrestling. So I would occasionally watch it with you, and I didn't hate it. It was all right. And then I think twice, once me and you, and then once with your cousin Chase, we went to once was like a pay-per-view, I think. That might have been just me and you at Target Center in Minneapolis. And, it was something we did together, and it was kind of fun to actually, watching it on TV all those times, to be able to go there and see it live.
Yeah, I remember that. It was the Elimination Chamber. I remember that. That was really fun. We got some shirts prior, and at the time we didn't have that much money, so we went to like the thrift store basically to get like the shirts.
They were Rey Mysterio Jr. shirts, if I recall.
Something like that. I don't remember, but it was definitely very fun. It was just another bonding thing that we could do, and it was definitely really cool.
I want to go back to us sharing a room. And it's something when you were talking about that, yeah, probably not that many people share a room with their uncle. But that is as I've traveled the world and gotten to know people from other places, that's a very American perspective. In a lot of places in this world, whole families stay together in a much smaller home for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it may be a financial thing. Sometimes it's just a cultural thing. You stay together until someone gets married. So I'd imagine there's a lot of people in this world, fewer maybe in this country, that do have that experience where they're sharing bedrooms with people, maybe several people and different ages, different generations. And it was probably a healthy thing for both of us to at least experience somewhat of that, to not be totally privileged. Because if we are, when things are pretty good, I think in both of our lives right now, especially, you're a kid and you got everything you need, and you're able to do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do at your age. But not everybody gets these opportunities. So I think at least having me in your bedroom for a year and a half, hopefully that made you get a little perspective.
Yeah, I feel like it's very helpful to have people at least live in your house. And I don't suggest anybody just go and live in an apartment with all their family, but living very close to a lot of different age groups and different genders, you get to understand them more. And I feel like it helps me to learn what annoyed middle-aged guys. Of course, you weren't middle-aged at the time, but
so now I'm middle-aged.
Well, I mean, who knows? But it's definitely helpful to understand people, just people in general in different ages than just the friends you would hang out with, and normally to be more respectful and just understand people in general. Let's
talk more now about you mentioned I was your day-to-day type of male role model type of person since I was living in the home, because your parents got divorced probably around the age of 5 or 6. And I'd imagine that's not that uncommon of a thing. You probably have a number of friends that have a similar situation. So in this day and age, when it is actually quite common, what is that like for you? Well, what was it and what is it like?
Yeah. I really don't think I've ever really thought much of it, and I've never really been affected by my parents getting divorced. But I know it affects other people and in different ways, just like anything would in any kind of experience. But it really hasn't affected me that much emotionally. Of course, it's it would be nicer to be around my dad more often and in the same household. But then again, it's kind of cool getting 2 Thanksgivings and 2 Christmases and 2 times the food and 2 times the presents. You know what I mean?
So if you had to make a choice, would you choose 2 of each holiday or mom and dad together? Or at this point, it's not even relevant because you can't make that choice.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't go back and change anything. I don't feel like there needs to be a change in any of that.
And now, I guess because of this, you have 2 younger siblings too that you get to see, and that's I'd imagine that's a good thing to be able to be. Now you get to be although you're your half brother, it's kind of not a terribly different role than maybe I played as your uncle, because you're 10 years older than them about. So you're much older, and they can really look up to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that if they wouldn't have split up, would definitely why I wouldn't change anything, because if they wouldn't split up, we would have never lived together. Or maybe we would have, who knows, but I definitely would not have 2 younger siblings that I can role model and be a positive person in their lives. And I definitely wouldn't change anything, and it would, and I love being an older brother, because I am just originally, for my mom and my dad, the youngest of 2, me and my sister. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool being the older brother.
Yeah, I suppose that's a unique dynamic. You were baby of the family for 10 years, and suddenly it's the one side of your family. Now you're your older brother after 10 years of being the baby. Did you notice that transition at some point?
Definitely when they got into being able to really communicate and run around and try to tackle me when they couldn't, and just hang on my leg and play around like that. I think about when I was a kid, and it's just completely different, and it's kind of cool to think about it, how I've had that opportunity to live both kind of sides of it.
And you just mentioned your little brother and sister trying to tackle you. I remember, how many years ago would this be? It's probably 3 years ago, or I think it was maybe 3 years ago around Halloween. We were outside in the front yard here where you live with your mom and your sister, and you were still at an age and a size where I could like physically be stronger than you. Now you're taller than me. You're way stronger than me. There's no way that I even put myself in any match to fight you. But I do remember those days where I was bigger and stronger than you. And those are good memories because they're distant memories in some ways. So tell me about that. As you've gotten a lot bigger and stronger. Now you play varsity football at a 6A school in the Twin Cities, playing against some really big dudes. You've gone from being a little kid, I guess, to being on the verge of being an adult, and I guess an adult in some ways. And you're a big guy right now. What's been like growing bigger and stronger so quickly?
It's definitely things that I couldn't do before, like just doing chores around the house, or like, just for instance, we have like patio furniture and it's a lot easier to lift up now.
So now you lift things better. Okay. That's it.
Well, no, that and just going day to day. I appreciate health more than I used to. And I definitely tried to work out more and get more physically stronger, as well as other things.
I saw you a few days ago. Your sister was at a dance competition, and you, without like getting permission, she was talking to one of her friends, and you went and you grabbed them and you picked them both up at the same time. And I don't know if you picked them that far off the ground, but you literally lifted two people who weighed, I don't know, a sum that's well over 200 pounds, might have been approaching 300 pounds. I don't know. We just picked them up. It's like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think much about it.
You just go pick up. Okay. How many other people, you pick up people all the time and just throw them around?
Yeah, it's a hobby of mine as well.
So you could be a future WWE wrestler. Maybe that's why we watched it. It's just priming you for your future career as a wrestler.
Yeah. Definitely, like, I'll probably have to come up with a name, but no. I feel like all the experiences I've had have led up to me making a decision to improve my fitness and overall health in that sense. And I benefit from it to be able to do defying acts of strength and such things. And it definitely benefits me to being stronger and just mentally stronger as well. And my varsity sport, which I'm pretty good at.
And I know you want to keep getting better at. What is midway through your sophomore year, 15 years old, do you look at your future? And when you see your future, what do you like plan for or want to do?
Yeah, I look at my future, of course. And I definitely want to continue to play football as long as I can, because it's definitely one of my hobbies and I love to do it. And wherever that can take me, I would like to follow with that. And I definitely, as I mentioned before, looking on YouTube videos of business and different things like that, I definitely would like to go into business and follow a career path in that.
So you think at this point, if you had to choose a major for college, for university, you'd be business related?
Yeah, definitely business related. And I feel like the world revolves around business, and it's very good to learn about it. And I definitely like and appreciate business courses, as I do take a business course currently in school called entrepreneurship.
I took one of those.
Yep. And we do projects, and I find it really fun and interesting, and I definitely could see myself doing that sometime in my life.
You talking about business made me think of something that my sister, your mother, told me, that maybe it was prior to your football season, you had the opportunity or were asked to sell something for some fundraising. Is it true that you went door to door for like hours on end to try to sell these things?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What did you learn from that?
Well, this was my second year doing it, and it was a lot easier this time around just because I improved my communication skills and my confidence over the last year. But it was a lot of commitment in it. And yes, I did go door to door for probably roughly around like 10 hours in total to sell like $400 worth of coupon cards, basically.
Like $20 a piece, so 20 of them in 10 hours?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not terrible. How many doors do you think you went to?
Probably 100, maybe.
And how many people answered, roughly?
I should say, yeah. Probably, maybe around 50% probably answered.
Did people come to the door, and do you recall more commonly being well received or people being annoyed?
Oh, every person that answered, except I think maybe like one or two, I bought one, and I had a good line written out to be successful in selling them.
Do you remember what the line was?
Oh God, I don't know. It was like, would you like to help our booster club to fund something else? I don't really remember.
So was it your line and your presentation, or was the product that good that people just had to have it?
It was probably not the product. Yeah, not the product.
I think I bought one, didn't I?
No, you didn't.
Oh, something else. Okay.
I didn't need your product.
You don't need my money? Okay, fine. For the last, is it 4 years now? Each of my nieces and nephews, you're one of 6 nieces and nephews. 4 years in a row now, I decided at some point I didn't want to give birthday gifts anymore in the traditional sense, because you'd all have birthday parties every year, and I'm different. Sometimes I try to be different. Sometimes I just don't see why people do the things that they do. Like, I don't buy a birthday card and give a birthday card. Like, I would come to your birthdays at some point. Maybe it's partially laziness, but also I don't need to pay $2 or $3 for some card that some company person created and to hand it to you. I can just, if I'm going to give you money, I'll give you money. If I want to give you a card, then I have this box of blank cards I write in. Part of it is a way for me to save money, because I try to save money in certain ways that I think I can save money. But also, I think it's just a better way of doing it. Like, I'll write whatever I want to write to you, and then I'll hand it to you. Anyhow, that's besides the point. But I would do that for your birthdays, and I'd give each niece and nephew, like, I don't know, probably depending on how much money I thought I had at the time, like $10 or $15 or $20 or $25 for their birthday. And then I realized this is like kind of meaningless. How about instead, every birthday, for your birthday present every year, near your birthday or whenever, we decide together something you want to do. It's going to cost way more than $25, but it'd be more fun for me. We get to spend time together. So now for 4 years, we've gone on activities. And what do you think of that? Is it actually more valuable than some cash or a sweatshirt? Tell me what your thoughts are on our birthday outings.
Yeah, so we've gone golfing, we've gone hiking, we've gone to sporting events, and they've been very fun. And I definitely feel like they're a lot more valuable than just giving somebody a birthday card. And you mentioned being lazy to not give a birthday card, but I feel like it's lazy to give a birthday card in that sense. But yeah, he definitely has the right idea, and it's a lot better connection building with our uncle instead of just giving birthday cards and stuff like that. It's a lot more meaningful.
Good. Well, I plan to keep doing it, and now it may be more difficult as everyone gets older and you're living further away, and maybe my schedule will be different, but I'll see if I can keep doing it every year. So I'd wish right now you'd really be planning on something big and exciting for next year, and maybe you think about it, because I'm going to take you somewhere, but sometimes I feel like we don't think of super creative things. We think of fun things, but not something that really takes a lot of thought. So you can keep that in the back of your mind for 2019 for your big 16th birthday present.
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not gonna disclose it quite yet.
Okay,
it's
good.
a surprise. It's That's a present
fine.
for you.
I like surprises.
It's a present for you.
Only
I'm giving you a present on my birthday.
A present for me? Wait. Oh, it's a present for you.
It's a present to tell you what my present is.
So you'll tell me on my birthday what I get to give you for your birthday?
We could do that too.
Okay. My birthday is before yours. What's your biggest challenge right now? So in your life at age 15 as a sophomore in high school, what would you say is the biggest challenge to your life right now?
One of my biggest challenges, and I feel like a lot of other people my age can relate, and as well as people all across different age ranges, but electronics and the use of electronics, I feel like, is probably my biggest challenge that I have throughout my life. And as I'm sitting on my phone right now, looking at my notes.
What's the challenge? They seem you've grown up with them. They should be very easy for you to use.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they're very easy to use, and that's also another good question. But the amount of usage that I have really dictates my life, and I think about it a lot when I'm not on electronics. I think about being on electronics.
So you actually think about it. So if you're at school and you can't be on your phone and you can't watch TV or be on a computer or play video games, you just have like the itch to go do one of these things? Is that what's happening?
Well, yeah. Well, just say learning and maybe even math class. I would just be going through math, reading my notes and writing more notes. And then all of a sudden I just get like the urge, man, I want to play Xbox when I get home, and I just start thinking about that. It takes away from my learning experience. I really feel that is a trouble in my life that I need to work on. Based
on the people that you know and the friends that you hang out with, is this something that is common? Have you talked about this with your friends?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you have a group of friends together and just say, last weekend I was with a couple of my friends, and you just realize and you look around the room, everybody's sitting on their phones and not even talking to each other. And I realized this last week as well, which made me more aware of that, is that I was trying to talk and have a conversation with somebody, and they would go in and out of putting their earbuds in. And it was very hard to talk to them when every time you'd ask them something, their earbud would be in, and they'd take it out of their ear, and they'd ask, And that kind of took away from the conversations that we could have.
It sounds to me like they didn't want to talk to you, AJ.
That very well might be, but it was easy to block it out with your electronics.
And you're talking about this, and you did mention maybe all ages, but yes, that I have that experience as well. When I'm around other people that, it doesn't matter who they are, it's just sometimes I feel like there's things on my phone, on the internet, on the apps that I want to look at, and I'm more interested in doing that than actually talking to somebody. So I think that's common for my age group. I'm a generation ahead of you, but even considering the people that are a generation older than me, it's the same thing. I think everyone has their own potential to be addicted to the electronics in their life. And some people maybe are very purposeful in not allowing them to the electronics to distract them in those type of social settings. I don't find very many people like that, though. The people I come across, the people at my job, the people that I hang out with, I think pretty much all of us have the phone attached to our hands almost at all times when we're not needing to focus on anything else. And it is something that I can't imagine we're the only ones that are aware of this happens. I don't think that many people, at least I haven't taken the effort very often to stop doing it. So what are you going to do about it?
What I'm going to do about it? Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to schedule my day better and really make sure that I don't know if scheduling is the right word, but really focus myself on certain points of the day and making sure that I'm not getting myself out of what I should be doing and really just focusing on what I should be doing in that moment. Just like math class, I should be focusing on math class. And part of scheduling is, I do think it's the right word, because scheduling is when I get home, I'll do this, and I'll allow myself to be on my electronics for a certain amount of time throughout the day. But then I got to realize after that time, I got to stay focused on what I'm doing.
So you're going to prioritize being in the electronics first before your homework?
No. Once I get everything I need to be done, then I will have a low slot in my day where I'm going to allow myself to be on my electronics. As well, for electronics, I should say, my video games, because I am a big video game lover, as well as most people my age. And I'll try to block it out of my day and not focus on it as much, except for that time that I exclude myself to it.
So electronics are the biggest challenge in your life right now. And I guess it's interesting that you look at it as the biggest challenge. I'm very aware that it's like my biggest addiction. Well, one of them. I probably have a few things that I'm addicted to that I don't really think about. Like today, I realize how addicted to junk food I've been lately and had bad habits with that. Like I know I shouldn't be eating certain candies and stuff, but I've gotten into a bad habit lately and I do that way more than I should. And I'm aware that in these settings, I shouldn't always be attached to my phone. I should try to interact with people more. And I do sometimes, and I really have to make an effort. But you see that as your biggest challenge. Is this a recent thing that you've thought about, or is this something you've been aware of for a long time?
Well, I've been thinking about it more often as time has gone on, but I've been aware of it for years. I just never wanted to really do anything about it because it was comfortable to me.
So you mentioned, so it's cell phone a lot of the times, but then when you're at home, it's video games. How many hours of video games you say you would play in a given day or week, however best you can calculate it?
Well, probably a day. I play probably an hour or two a day, just wasting my time, I feel like.
Okay, and that could be worse. I mean, I could ask someone else your age that same question and just assume they sleep 8 hours a night and they go to school for 8 hours. They'd probably say 7 hours or 8 hours, like the rest of their free time. That's possible. And if someone wants to do that, I like to get in the mindset it's okay, do whatever you want to do, but then also, what purpose does it serve you? For an hour or two, fun maybe, but besides, what purposes does it serve in your life for you right now when you are playing video games? You say wasting time, but you do it, so you must not feel like it's a waste of time.
Well, I should expand on that more. I feel like in most people when they're on their electronics, especially video games, like you're having fun while you're doing it. But I do have fun, and it's a hobby of mine, but I do other things that are also fun to me. Like I like reading. Reading is one of my passions. I read a lot. And my bookshelf's right there, as you can see. And I feel like that's a lot more productive, and I get more out of it than just playing video games and other things of that nature, like other electronics. Being on other electronics, I feel like I could be a lot more productive with my time while also still having fun.
Okay, so you feel this, and you pointed to the bookshelf, which is 7 feet away from where you sit when you play video games. So why is it you choose to grab the video game controller instead of grabbing a book in those moments?
That's another great question. Well, I actually feel like I know the answer is because I'm reading. I feel like it's fun, but it also requires me to do work in my mind to process things and actually do it. Compared to video games, you just turn it on and you kind of just go into a different world.
With video games, well, I'm AJ's uncle, and I guess I've known him for his whole life, which is 15 years plus. So I was 20 when you were born, and that was probably 1 year after I stopped playing video games. And as you've grown up, I'm sure you remember me in some ways talking about that, how you were building this video game habit, which was okay, but then you would play a lot more than you do now. You have more things going on in your life probably. And I really suggested that you didn't. Like, I don't know if I told you not to. I probably did. But I told you how I wish I hadn't played so many video games throughout my childhood. I feel like that was such a waste of time. So I told you this then, and you're still doing it. And I don't blame you, because I probably would be doing the same thing if I was your age, because everybody your age does it seems. Is that thought, though, resonating with you more now, some years later?
Well, it is. It is a little bit. It's kind of just something that you like block out at the time. You know what I mean? And that's a very valid point, but I just feel like you can't even stop somebody from doing it if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I'd imagine there are countless parents with their kids that are somewhere in range of your age that They've allowed them to have video games, and then they could never stop them from having them. Or if you like, they grounded you or took the video games away from you, that wouldn't really solve it anyhow. I guess now, at least for the first time, there are people that are making careers by playing video games. Relative to the number of people that play video games, probably a minuscule percentage. I don't really know exactly. But that exists. So back when I was growing up, there's no way to ever possibly get a career out of video games unless you maybe created video games or published one of the couple magazines that existed. But now I think there are some more ways to possibly turn that into a career. But you don't need to turn it into a career to have it as a hobby. It is an interesting thing, because how many hours in your life you've put towards video games that could have been put elsewhere, and how many hours in my life I did that I feel like I'd be so much smarter now if I read. I barely read when I was your age, but that's one thing I really appreciate about you, and you've always enjoyed reading, and I never did when I was a kid. I didn't really read that much.
Yeah, many people can make careers out of doing video games, and of course it's something they love doing, and it makes them a lot of money, but I couldn't do that personally. I feel like, because I wouldn't get enough out of it. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted to video games, because I just say I play football, and during my football season, I never played video games at all. Like all my memberships and stuff they ran out because I wouldn't play on it. It got disconnected from the Wi-Fi, which only happens if you're not on it at all, because that's just what the Xbox itself or the electronic device does. And because I felt like I have more fun playing football than I do playing video games. And if I have something better to do, then I'm not going to do it.
And I think I can relate to that recently, where because of having this podcast and being in Toastmasters, I recently gave a speech, and I've been traveling a lot and working my different jobs. I got to the point where I really felt like I had no extra time for anything. And it sounds like when you put yourself in that position, it isn't about like scheduling to do something and not doing the other thing. When you just have so little time to waste, quote unquote, you can't do it. You realize there's other things you have to get done, and you do them, and now it's time to sleep and time to get up. And if you have a few days in a row like that, I think you can begin to realize that, okay, these are the things that are most important, clearly, and these aren't. But now that football season's over, you can possibly get into different habits, and it sounds like maybe that's a habit you've gotten back into.
It's definitely a habit I got back into, and I feel like that's what I'm comfortable with doing, and that I haven't really gone on to do any other things and tried anything out. And I feel like I could go out and do things and do other things besides it, but I feel like that's something that I'm just more comfortable with doing.
So besides video games, what other electronics do you like? If you're on your phone, is there certain apps you use? Is there, you watch videos? What do you do? How else is your time eaten away? And is any of it productive?
Well, I like to be on YouTube, and I like watching YouTube. And I think it's the funniest thing ever, is that you go on YouTube, and I usually go on YouTube for a good purpose. And I usually watch something that'll help me, if it's anything from like nature or something that I can learn about, from anything from like a business thing that I could like learn from people like Warren Buffett, and they're in like even like TED Talks or anything like that. Then there's always just some video that's in like the next play section or like the up next. That's like, that's interesting. That gets you off topic. And then an hour later, lost in YouTube land, I'm at a completely different video from where I started at.
Because they know you. They know your habits from before, and they know what videos are like that, and they know how to keep you on there, so you will have to watch the 5 or 10 seconds of the ad that by virtue of you watching that much of that ad, someone's paying YouTube for it. They got it all figured out. You got to be smarter than the YouTube.
Oh, yeah. They're brilliant.
And I fall into that trap every once in a while. Not too often, but I can see why it happens. So at least you go on there with a good purpose initially. At least you are getting some minutes of potentially educational videos before jumping into the ones that probably are just complete waste of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and one other thing I thought about in terms of video games, when I played video games, it was me by myself or maybe my brother Chuck playing with me. And I don't know how much interaction we would have. I know now people often wear headphones and they play online with their friends. So I'm wondering, do you talk more with your friends while you're playing video games with them online, assuming you play with people that you know from your school, than you actually talk to them while sitting next to them at school?
I've never thought about it that way, but yeah, definitely probably more. I have my friends in my classes, then we go home and I'll eventually hop on video games and I'll invite them to talk to me. And I feel like we didn't talk at all that day in school, and somehow we have more conversation while we're playing video games than we did in school when they're sitting right next to me in class.
Yeah, that's what I realized. That's probably what's going to happen in that case, because you do it in part for the video game, part for the social interaction, I suppose. It's a way to hang out with your friends in 2018. But by doing it that way, they have a game control in their hand. They can't have their cell phone in their hand, so they then can look up and talk. Or you can look at a video game and you can talk at the same time. It's probably hard to talk when you're reading something online or watching YouTube videos and you got your headphones in, but it does make sense that would happen that way. Mm-hmm. So it's a way of hanging out with your friends. But what do you talk about? What is it? Relevant conversation? Is it important in some way? Is it just kind of BSing and giving each other crap?
It's not really a full conversation. It's more like they're obviously playing the video game and they start talking and then they start focusing on the video game and they'll cut out for a little bit and then they'll start the conversation up again. Or like, what were we talking about again? So it's not really a full conversation, but it is talking, I'd say.
Whether it's while playing video games or hanging out with your friends somewhere, do you find if you feel like you know what a meaningful conversation is, do you ever have like a truly meaningful conversation at age 15, or are you just kind of talking about stuff?
Well, the thing is that I feel like I've gotten better at making better conversations with people, but not a lot of people around me have the amount of expertise on having good conversations, and I feel like not a lot of people know how to actually talk to people these days.
And I don't know that these days. When I was your age, I don't know that I knew how to have a conversation either. I probably just talked about sports, or I don't know. I didn't have a lot of interest besides, I think, watching sports, and maybe there was a few other things. And if, for instance, I was ever interested in a girl around that age, I would be too afraid to even tell anybody about it. So I wasn't talking about that. But maybe 20 years later, you and your friends are more open about that. Like, do you talk about what girls you're interested in or whatever else you might be interested in that way? Or is everyone kind of secretive about their lives?
Dang, you're really digging in right here,
well,
Curt.
What's the point of having you on if we're not going to learn about you, AJ?
No. So I feel like this day and age, we're more open than most people were. Probably back in your day and age when you were a kid.
It might have just been me that wasn't open. I don't know, but go on.
Maybe. But I still feel like there's always just like people there's always introverts and extroverts. And I feel like people are more open to talk about it, but that's if you can get them to talk, which is the problem, because we don't talk, as I said before, with communicating. We don't talk very well, as we don't communicate very well to each other.
You don't need to mention anybody by name, but you have some friends that you feel like you've developed that type of rapport where you do have better conversations with them?
Yeah, a few. Definitely my closest friends, but not really any other people besides that.
And is this something you've just developed because you've spent more time with them, or is it just something about your personalities that really led to being able to talk about more stuff at ages 13, 14, 15, whenever you really started talking?
Well, it started on interest, like that we had the same interest, but then we felt more comfortable around each other, then we could be able to talk about more things. And any other things that we felt more comfortable about, we were able to understand each other more throughout the conversation and having like that more of a connection there. I feel like it's easier to talk to people because it's like almost like you're talking to yourself.
It's almost like you're talking to yourself when you talk to other people. Go on. I want to understand this better.
Well, since you have the same interests, or that's how I built relationships as I was younger. We had the same interests. So, and then we got to know each other more and understand each other more. So you like the same things and you understand what each other's saying. So it's almost like you're talking to yourself, I feel like. Not quite, but a little bit.
Okay. So it's not hard to have the conversation because these are things that it's a reflection of your own interests. Okay. Are your friends at this point, are they all guy friends, or do you have like conversations with girls, whether or not you're even, I don't know if you're interested in them or what goes on, but you have like girls that are friends that you really like sit down and chat with?
Yeah, I do. I do have some friends that are guys, and my better friends, or like my best of friends, are guys most part, but I definitely do talk to girls and have good relationships with people of the other gender.
Good. Do you think you'll encourage these people to listen to the podcast that you're on?
It depends on the relationship, but yeah, I definitely would encourage them to listen to this.
Okay, good. I'll take their listenership if they want to join in and become a subscriber of People I Know show. On that, the next time that you're trying to talk to someone at school, they're gonna be too busy listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
No, maybe. Do you have any questions for me? You're on the podcast, People I Know show. You're the youngest guest so far, and unless one of your younger cousins ends up being on.
I do want to get your perspective a little bit more. How did you feel being? Did you feel like you had an occupation to be more of a, going back to like living with us, to be a role model, or did it just happen? Like, did you ever think about like, I'm moving here, I'm gonna have to be a role model, or do you think it just kind of happened?
No, I don't think I really thought about it that much. I would only think about it maybe after something happened that was kind of a negative event, where maybe there was an argument or something happened where it didn't end pleasantly. Then I'd probably think about some aspect of not liking that feeling and wanting to do it differently, or maybe I'd just be mad at whomever. I don't know. I feel like I'm a different person now. I'm always a different person. I feel as I grow older and try to get a little bit smarter. So I don't exactly recall, but to your question, I don't remember. Like I didn't read books and study up on how to be a great role model. I thought I would just be who I am, and when situations arose, apply the things that I've learned, even though that often seemed to not work that well, because I don't know if it's always that relatable to, say, if you were 10 years old at the time and I'm 30 years old and I think I have all the answers for your life. I don't know necessarily that your 10-year-old mind is ready for, wanting to, or interested in what I feel like you should know. Maybe it works sometimes, but overall I feel like sometimes it just, my approach might not have been good enough. Another question.
So you mentioned that you quit kind of obsessions you had kind of at the same age, as soon as you kind of were like 19, 20-ish. And you also have previously quit other like bad habits and other things. Do you think those like correlate more, and like quitting something like big compared to small?
Well, first with the video game habit, it was my first year out of high school. I was going to a tech college, and I shared a apartment with 3 of my friends from high school. And that was a good learning experience for me. And I don't see some of them that often anymore. Actually, I don't really talk to any of them that often, but I don't think we're on bad terms, any of us. But I do remember that in that household, video games were played crazy amounts. And it's like somehow I got to the point of realizing this is just, I can't spend my time this way. I can't spend all my extra time doing this. And somehow just seeing it so drastically, like these huge amounts of times, it struck me as I don't want to do this anymore. I got to do something else. And I found it kind of easy to get away from it. Before that, I don't know that I was playing a ton, but that was like striking to me. Like, okay, this is not a good way for me to use my time. If they want to do it, that's fine, but I'm not going to do this anymore. And yeah, I've quit doing some other things in recent years. And you mentioned bad habits. I don't know if it's bad habits, but I think it's just a realization that these things that I thought once served me well, they don't serve me the same way anymore. So I guess I gave a Toastmasters speech about it a few weeks back about retiring from a bunch of different things like golf and bowling. And I forgot what else I even mentioned in that. And I still I play a little bit of golf, not much, but I guess the mindset has changed where I used to feel like I had to golf every summer and I had to create reasons to golf. Now I don't do that at all. If someone asks me, maybe I'll say yes, but I don't ever plan to golf anymore. I retired from my bowling team 2 years ago because I thought I'm going to start using my time a little bit differently. And this year they asked me to be back on it, and I kind of reluctantly said I would. I haven't bowled that much, but it's a totally different approach. I'm presenting it way differently. Like, I'm probably not going to bowl every week. You ask me, maybe I'll help you out. I'll come, and I can enjoy it in small amounts. But I got out of this habit because then for 5-6 years, I would just basically every Wednesday I'd go bowling, and I enjoyed it, but not maybe enough to do it 30 times over the course of a winter. It's really big commitment. So I decided, okay, I got to restructure my time, and it's not always easy. And sometimes maybe you can feel like you're disappointing people. But if someone else enjoys doing whatever they're doing, fine, keep doing it. I'm not going to tell anyone to stop doing what they're doing, but I do want to present to anyone that it is possible to once do something and then decide later to not want to do it as much and then actually take an action to not do it anymore. It's possible. And I think it's how we improve. We retire from different phases of our life and we move on and find new things to do.
Yeah, that's really valuable information. And I think that's all the questions that I have for you.
Okay, then we can get into the final segment, as always, on People I Know show. It's the Being Wrong segment. I think when you told me that you wanted to be on this podcast, it was shortly after, maybe like the day you were coming back from the core strength experience that I know if anyone's listened to episode 2 of the podcast, when I talked to my brother Chuck, that was something we talked about. So you've been to this twice, and certainly when you're there and when you're leaving there, there's an inspiration that you feel inside of you and a motivation to do more things, to do better. What have you carried from that, and how have you applied it to your life?
Yeah, so I've been there 3 times now, and I focused on different things, especially in the last 2 times. But definitely my biggest struggle going into it was having conversations with people and being able to talk to people. So that was the biggest thing that I was wrong about, was the idea of talking to another person, because I was very, very stuck into an introverted way. And I've realized now that I've focused on being better at communicating with people is that I was totally wrong about that. And I love having conversations with people, and you can learn so much from other people, and just my whole perspective on that changed. And that was probably one of the biggest things that held me back most throughout my earlier childhood days, like elementary school and times like that. I definitely feel like I've changed from that more, and that was probably the biggest whole thing that held me back throughout my childhood.
So were you not wanting to have conversations, not confident in having conversations, afraid of, not interested? Like, what really shifted? What feels better now about that?
Well, definitely confidence, but being confidence with having conversations, knowing how to talk to people, big combination things that I thought too much about it, basically, because you naturally can have conversations with people, but you just start overthinking it too much, and then you try to tell yourself that you're bad at communicating or you're bad at doing this, when really you can be just as good as you want to be. And I've definitely focused on being more confident in my communication. And before even last October, we had English last year, and we had to give a speech every 2 weeks on just something random. And it was the hardest thing in the world to do. And one time I didn't even want to do it. But then it just flipped after I got home from court. And then I started doing the speeches and getting better at it as I went through it throughout the whole year of my 9th grade year. And I got so much better at speaking and understanding how to talk to people. And it just helped me so much.
I guess explain better how you're applying this newfound appreciation for or efforts put towards having conversations. Is it with people that you already know? Is it random people you come across? When do you really feel like you're putting this into use? And when you actively take the approach of, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation now, as opposed to just kind of not doing that?
Well, yeah, just going up to people in general, I'm better at, but definitely it has helped me the most. And not as we talked about earlier, like really good friends, but not those people, but decent people that like acquaintances maybe that I could then talk to and not be shy, you could say, or just not being confident enough and to talk to them, and I could just talk to them about anything.
So you're saying what you were wrong about is you were wrong about how much you valued having conversations, or wrong about how difficult you thought they were to have?
Yeah, definitely.
With the difficult?
Yeah, difficult. And thinking too hard about it and thinking that they were difficult to have when I just ended up just not trying. But then I realized that they're so much more valuable to me than I first thought. And that I need to have conversations to be able to have like a more improved lifestyle.
Yeah, build better friendships and learn more about yourself and others by communication. I think that as the human species has continued to evolve, that's kind of the trick. We talk more to more people, we learn more things, and we develop our passions and our interests, and we keep growing and getting better. And that is why I have a podcast, in part, one of many reasons. And I appreciate you, AJ, volunteering for and then doing a great job in the conversation today and adding a perspective of a younger generation. Thanks for listening to People I Know Show. If you like the show, encourage someone in your life to listen and or share this episode or another episode on social media. And a reminder, please take a few minutes to rate and review People I Know Show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can search People I Know Show on Facebook or Instagram to follow, see photos, or interact with the podcast. Plus, you can always send an email to me, Curt Karstensen, by using the email address peopleiknowshow@gmail.com.